Joining me today from the Department of Ag Trade Consumer Protection is my friend, Michael. Michael, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Jeremy.
Well, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about smartphone apps, tracking and privacy. I think this topic is very interesting because we are getting asked constantly now, should you be allowed to be tracked? Thanks to a lawsuit or lack thereof. I think it was a lawsuit out of Apple, among other things. But either way, you could tell that story if I'm wrong. But when we're looking at this and tracking, it's really hard to know if you really are or aren't being tracked. So where do you guys stand on that? And you're going to, of course, help us navigate this too.
Well, you bring up a point about the ability to track information and who's doing it and how you can do it. And data privacy laws are continuing to evolve across the country and federally. Just last session, we saw a couple more data privacy bills being, circulated, looking around, and what kind of measures should be put in place to make sure that we're all protected. And essentially, it's a requirement. I shouldn't say it's a requirement. It should be a requirement because the phones have become an absolute, I would say, necessity at this point. Not necessarily because we as consumers feel like we have to have them, but so many more businesses or services are going online, making them mobile, where you almost have to go on your phone to get to them or to get what you need. And though you combine those with the luxuries that phones offer, like GPS, when's the last time we actually took a map on a road trip and tried to figure it out? It would be painful. And so we have this ever-growing reliance on them. And by doing so, through these apps and more information, we're also entering more information. So, historically, you would look at your map, you wouldn't tell anyone, here's my route, here's where I want to go. But on a GPS, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, it's and there again is a hard thing to navigate because you have to use it. It's just where we are at, and the word of me even saying have to use it is sad because you don't, but you really are forced into it because of society, because of other factors of simplicity and easiness of it. But it does come with some risk, as everything does. Even picking up a map and looking at a map in the old days, it came with the risk of folding it, trying to fold it back. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about some of the device stuff and staying protected, because that's really what we're here to talk about. And the first one you say is that use an official app store to make those purchases. Why is that important?
Well, you want to know that it's been a validated, kind of vetted source that's going to put that app up. And the app stores do that. They verify some of the security levels, they verify what it's offering, making sure it's legitimate. So when you are downloading that, that provider has at least taken a first look at it, versus grabbing an app maybe in a game or someplace else or some other third-party site where you're not really quite sure if it has those same security measures that you get from an actual app store.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Check it out, and it also comes with updates, so you can update the store if you want to. So check whatever device you're using for that. Know what information your app will be able to access. How do we figure that out, or what could be some things we look for to protect ourselves?
Yeah, this is a good one. And, we'll talk about this maybe a couple times, but everyone's going to see those terms and conditions, and no one's really going to want to read them. And I don't blame anybody, because the font is usually tiny and you got to scroll. You don't know what half of it means. But one thing you really want to pay attention to is this one is, what are they asking for? And you'll find more and more apps are asking for more and more information. I mean, they'll ask for as much as they can get, and a lot of it isn't relevant. So maybe you're downloading a cooking app and they want to know, what are your spending habits, and where have you been, and all these other things. You're like, wait a second, why do you really need to know all of that? So take a quick peek at what they're asking access for. A lot of the new software, whether it be Apple or Androids, will pop up and say they're asking for permissions to get into your photos, to access your GPS, to get into your contacts. And so you should be able to, say no to those. But if you don't see it, you can also go into your settings menu, take a look at that app and see what actual permissions have been toggled on. And we would encourage you to toggle them all off unless you absolutely need it.
Yeah, and it's so hard. You're right on that. Reading that fine print when you're about to submit, for that app, then you get asked about secure your location, and you're just like, just whatever. But you really should check into that, because you are definitely opening yourselves up for some information of tracking, and it could be just simple as where you are tracking. I mean, we're not, the sky's the limit, I suppose, whenever we're talking about tracking, because that can mean a whole bunch of different things. Next one too, never store sensitive data on your phone. This one I kind of chuckled at, because there are some apps that would allow you to do that too. So how do we be careful on this one?
Well, the key here is, you have your common sense of, well, if you store all that stuff on there and you lose your phone or something gets into it or it gets hacked, that's more and more vulnerable information that's on there. But when we're talking about here is the tracking and privacy is, depending on which apps are asking for information and you don't know exactly what they're doing with it, or you didn't read those terms and conditions, you're putting a lot of really sensitive information out there, and that may be susceptible to them either using it. I would hope that no business is going to sell your social security number or passwords and things, but at least they're going to monitor some of that and start pairing it up. And you see so many of these companies also partner with each other to share data or sell data. And you might have three things about John down the street, and I might have the other four things. And you and I together, well, we could put together a pretty good profile.
Yeah, that's good things to know there, and to stay safe on that front. Next one is avoiding connecting to free Wi-Fi, which is so tempting in so many different ways. Again, because we are connected, the phone's connected to the hip, the device, whatever it is connected to the hip. But why would you want to second or maybe look a little bit closer at this one for free Wi-Fi?
Yeah, this one's been around for a long time, and we just continue to repeat it because it's so important. Because there's countless ways that somebody on an open public network can try and get in and backtrack through the back door into your phone. And if it doesn't have any security measures and they're on the same platform, it's not that sophisticated to go ahead and get into your phone. So, if you really need to get into it, we would just suggest connecting, get what you need, and then get back out. But don't sit for hours on an open Wi-Fi network.
Yeah. Next one is something we talk about quite a bit, and it's doing updates. And that should be done with all of the apps that you use as well, which you can set to do auto, but I think you really want to double check into that world. But keeping things updated is so important these days.
It is, because software is always evolving. And anytime you have something that's new and improved, you're going to have a new threat that is posed right to it. We see that every time a new phone or a new software comes out, within a couple of days, somebody's posted a way to hack it or found a loophole. So that's why it's really important, because those companies that post them, of course, then take responsive measures to put in a patch or some type of security to measure to make sure all those things don't keep piling up. So when you see the update, install it.
Yeah, absolutely. And delete apps too. If you're not using them, should you keep them on your phone?
I would encourage you not, because if you don't do what we talked about earlier and you're looking at permissions, and unbeknownst to you, maybe you have them all on. And so it's tracking information, what you're doing, not just necessarily in that app, but maybe across other platforms. And if you're not using it, it's just sitting there in the background, aggregating all this data, you're at 100% loss and no gain.
The numbers just surprise you on how many people this is still happening to day in and day out. So you wouldn't talk about it and bring these topics to us if there wasn't a reason to talk about them. We're just still somehow, some way, still not figuring it out.
You're right. And this information, the security is one thing, but what this all leads to ultimately is your money getting stolen, your identity being taken advantage of or replicated. And identity theft is one of the largest growing crimes in the country. If you're to see the numbers, they're staggering how much it increases year after year after year. And these are that it becomes almost easy to do because so much more information is out there.
And I want to point it out that I am not a cocky person, and would never think that I'm better over top of this. I have walked myself into almost the 3 or 4 times in the hacks that I thought were legit, and realized after a few things that holy crap, I'm in the wrong place and I should have never been here in the first place. So it can happen to anybody, and I don't want to come off something like a big jerk that doesn't, because it can happen to anybody out there. And I love having you guys in my back pocket for getting the information. If people want to report these things, how can they do so, Michael?
Yeah, give us a call on our hotline at 1-800-422-7128, or send us an email at datcphotline@wisconsin.gov. We'll be happy to help out, give you some information, lead you to a complaint or some other resources if you need be.
Michael, thank you so much for all your great work. Appreciate you, and we'll check back in with you next month.
Thanks, Jeremy. Great talking.